I know that you have done the important work, so let's take the time to make your evaluation materials shine by showing that you've met the criteria and you've clearly given the evidence you need that you have earned tenure or promotion. I was cleaning out a closet and I found my old tenure binders. I have 4 of these for my tenure application at my previous job. That's a little bit ridiculous. So after I was tenured, sat on evaluation committees for reappointment, promotion, and tenure many times, and I have seen dozens and dozens of tenure applications. So I thought I would take today to give you just a few ideas on how to make your materials really showcase the work that you have done and make it easy for the committee member to see the requirements, see that you've met them, see that you have evidence so that your tenure packet will sail through the process with no problems. All right, let's get started. So in the many years, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years that I sat on a tenure committee or reappointment, promotion, so forth. When I sat on those committees, the applications and materials that I loved were the ones that followed 4 key principles. They had a central argument, they had compelling evidence, they used the same structure that was outlined in the tenure guidelines, and they had a tone of voice that was clear and firm but not obnoxious. The most important thing is that you make it super easy for the committee to remember what the criteria are, and then that you lay out your evidence and your argument very clearly linking up to those standards. When your tenure committee or the evaluation committee looks through your materials and they can easily find everything that they're looking for, it makes their job so much easier and will make your case go through the system much more easily than if they have to dig around to try and find all the important information. So the 4 key elements are strong argument, compelling evidence, clear structure, and professional style and voice. When we think about a strong argument, this is where you need to say, here's the standard, I've met the standard. You want to be explicitly connecting the work that you're presenting in your materials with the actual criteria in your tenure and promotion documents. This can be, for example, if your requirements say that have positive teaching evaluations across all levels of the program, then you need to explicitly say, I have taught classes from freshman level XYZ to the senior capstone course, or whatever the specific requirements are for you. Using the explicit words that are outlined in your tenure document makes it that much easier for the committee to see this is the requirement. As they scan through, they can find the right information. Many of your committee members will read every single word that you put in your narrative, and they will flip through your evidence. They're not going to read every single bit of evidence that you have. They're just going to flip through and confirm that the right materials are there. If there's a problem or inconsistency, they'll look deeper, but it's really important that the narrative itself gives the full story. They should not need to look at evidence to know whether or not you've met a criteria. So in the strong argument, you want to be very explicit and clear. If there's a criteria, you say, I have met this criteria or I met this standard. You might not need to use those words, but you need to use specific words from the tenure, reappointment, promotion criteria documents in your document to make it as easy as possible for the committee to find that information. When you're thinking of what evidence to include, one of my former colleagues told me 2 things. Think about what's relevant and what's significant. When you're compiling evidence, we no longer need 4 huge binders worth of information. You want to find the most important information and evidence that you have that you met those criteria. And when someone's reading your tenure and promotion narratives, they should get the whole picture from the narrative and use the evidence as kind of confirmation of what you have already presented in the narrative. They shouldn't have to look through the evidence to determine if you've met that criteria. The next important part is clear structure. This means that in your tenure and promotion guidelines and materials, they will outline what you need to talk about and include in your actual application. Be sure to follow that structure because the committee members are looking at that guideline document to find the right information, and they're looking at the criteria to find the information. So you want to follow that so that if the committee's kind of going through and checking off, yep, they did this, yep, they did this, yep, they did this, your document should follow that same order and structure. You can use headings, underline, bold, and so forth to make it really clear which parts you're talking about and use the same terms so that it lines up explicitly with the criteria documents that the committee member will be going through to see if you've met all of those requirements. Often your documents will be required to have a certain formatting and font. Be sure to follow those exactly as indicated. If you're not given that information explicitly about the lengths or what size font to use, then you can also ask colleagues for samples of their documents to get a feel for how long their documents are, how many pages or how many words, and are they single spacing or double spacing, what size font, what do the margins look like. That might be explicitly stated in your guidelines, but if not, you can use some samples from colleagues to make sure that yours is in line with what the committee is expecting. The final important part is to have professional style and voice. Here, you want to say, I'm confident, but you don't want to sound arrogant in what you're stating. So you need to strike a right balance in the tone that you're using to talk about your words. For example, you don't want to give overly tentative language. I think, I may have met this, or I think this was important. Instead, just say it straight out with your full chest. This is important work. Here are the outcomes of my work. Here's the impact of my work. If you'd like some more information on this, I have a blog post that I've linked down below, and you can go to the blog and get a little bit more information and examples there, as well as a checklist you can use to compare what you've already written or to guide your thinking as you start to do your documents. If you've already got a narrative written, you can use the checklist to find some places that you might need to fine tune. I hope you'll check that out below. I also offer a program for faculty who are trying to figure out what they need to include, how they should structure it, what information is most relevant and significant for them. And that's through Faculty Evaluation Development Program and a coaching program. It's about 2 months long, so that you have enough time to work with me to identify the most important things you want to include and how you might want to frame the information, and then help you get that written. And then it also includes a rapid review where I'll look through your materials and give you some specific pointers, feedback, and help on finalizing those materials. If you don't need that much support and you just got some drafts and you'd like someone to take a look at them and give you some structured feedback along those 4 key areas, I'd be happy to do that through my rapid review program. Again, the links are down below if you'd like to take advantage of that opportunity. I know that you have done the important work, so let's take the time to make your evaluation materials shine by showing that you've met the criteria and you've clearly given the evidence you need that you have earned tenure or promotion. Until next time, keep exploring to find what works for you.